Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
To the 20, to the 25, or the 30, to the 40-yard line. We could see history. 50, 40, to the 30-yard line. Run, Michael, run, Michael, run, Michael, run. Touchdown, Tampa.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Back at you today for episode 141. This Monday night, the 5-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers will travel up to MetLife Stadium to take on the 1-6 New York Giants. It is our game preview show, so we're going to break down everything you need to know about this game beforehand. As all sights are set on Monday Night Football, the quote-unquote second straight primetime game for the Bucs. We know that the Sunday Night Football game against the Vegas Raiders was flexed. Well, hopefully, the same doesn't happen this week. But as of right now, still expected to play on Monday night. Welcome back to the show. I am your host, as always, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucs fan himself, Mr. Devin Wanish. Happy Thursday, friend.
Yeah, I don't know. This week to me has been really strange because I feel like it should be over already. It's just one of those weeks, and Thursday Night Football is the night, and I felt like it should have been like 2 nights ago. So it's been a weird week, and obviously with the Bucs not playing on Sunday, it'll feel a little bit more weird. But I mean, it would be good to watch Red Zone most of the day on Sunday. So I really enjoy Red Zone. I'm not sure. Can you watch Red Zone at all? Do you have that?
Yeah, we've got it on YouTube TV, so I'll check it out every now and again when the Bucs aren't on.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like it, especially for fantasy purposes. Team is 6-1 right now, so hopefully the team that matters, because I know that some people that listen to this, I'm in different leagues. So the money league that I'm in, I'm 6-1. So the other ones, I'm not. I'm like 500 or worse. So if you want fantasy advice, if I actually care about it, I can give you some solid fantasy advice. But if I don't, I'm not gonna give you great advice because I won't pay attention as much. But I'm in like 4 leagues or so.
Man, just to give you an idea of how my fantasy season is going, in one of my leagues, I have the highest points scored out of anybody in the league by quite a big margin, and my team is 3-4. So
you're basically like the Dallas Cowboys almost.
Pretty much. I mean, almost like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season, you would think, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe who's your quarterback?
Matt Stafford in that league.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he'd be better this year. I guess, Detroit sucks, but apparently Matt Stafford kind of sucks this year too from a fantasy standpoint. But we're not talking about Matt Stafford and the Lions. We are talking about NFC Offensive Player of the Month, Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's go ahead and start things off with some Buck news from the week. First off, we got a couple of accolades. As I just mentioned, TB12 breaking records left and right since his time in Tampa Bay, and another first in his career. NFC Offensive Player of the Month. His month looked like this: 1,157 yards, 13 touchdowns, 110.0 passer rating, and if I'm not mistaken, 0 interceptions as well. What a month for TB12.
Yeah, he's been on fire as of late, and hopefully the game this week doesn't get postponed, because I'd love to see. You'd really hate for his streak here to be halted. The team's really starting to get into a groove, and you'd hate for that to end. But yeah, a fantastic month, and now it's all about improving on November. Am I expecting 20 touchdowns or whatever? No, but you gotta, now you're getting later into the season. It starts to matter a bit more. So gotta play well this month, especially because this month's gonna have a couple of tough matchups.
Absolutely. Week 9 against the Saints is the first of those big matchups that they're going to have after New York. But, another thing as well, we talked on Monday's show about, Tom Brady and his presence in the MVP race because, again, week 7, week 8, that's when these conversations start. And the way that TB12 has been playing, he has without a doubt put himself in that conversation. But Bruce Arians kind of said it, and we both said it here on the show. You'd like to see a little bit more games be put together. Some more wins on the season will definitely help him make his case because there is some stiff competition. Aaron Rodgers is playing like Aaron Rodgers again. While Russell Wilson didn't have the greatest showing on Sunday Night Football, I have no doubt that he's going to just continue to play at an MVP caliber level. So it'll be interesting to see, but an impressive month for TB12, which was capped off by an NFC Offensive Player of the Month award. Congratulations to him. The other award for the Bucs this week, Devin White wins NFC Defensive Player of the Week after his performance on Sunday. His season total so far, 61 tackles, 4 sacks, 1 forced fumble. Listen, Defensive Player of the Week is one thing, but I think Devin White right now is making a very strong case to be a frontrunner for Defensive Player of the Year. There is only one player in the NFL right now with 60-plus tackles and more than 3 sacks. His name is Devin White, number 45 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But really good week for Devin White. And again, him and Levante, they are just having one hell of a season between the two of them.
Yeah, and I think that this scheme really helps Devin White too because it really fits him so well. He's a really good blitzer. He's good at running downhill, not really backpedaling, but running downhill. I think you can ask Derek Carr how that goes. But among linebackers, this is from Pro Football Focus. Among linebackers, Devin White has 17 total pressures, which is first in the league, and he has 4 sacks, which is first in the league among linebackers. That doesn't count outside linebackers that are basically edge rushers like Shaq Barrett or Jason Pierre-Paul. But among linebackers that are actual linebackers, he's first in both those categories. So, yeah, I think just like with Brady, he needs to put a few more games together. I think he's on a really good streak right now, and hopefully he can continue it. But I think he's going to need a few more splash plays. He's going to need some interceptions, some forced fumbles, some more sacks to really start to make a name for himself in a Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Because I think when people look at it, they look at the interceptions. If a linebacker has 3 or 4 interceptions with 6 sacks or so, that's pretty good. So I think right now he's lacking that few splash plays, and I think he'll get them. I don't know if he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. There's still a ton of games left. Who knows? It could go either way. But I think he's making a pretty strong case right now to be in at least the top 3, and I think Tom Brady is going to be in the top 3 of MVP voting. So 2 Buccaneers there that are really obviously. Tom Brady's the quarterback of the offense, but Devin White's basically like the quarterback of that defense. Levante David is a guy who is soft-spoken. He's very good. He's elite, but he's soft-spoken. Devin White, you can tell, is that leader. And he, to me, is like that quarterback. So the Buccaneers have 2 awesome quarterbacks on both sides of the ball that are right now propelling them to wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a pretty exciting time of the year because, as we mentioned, the Buccaneers really starting to get the ball rolling. So with the game on Monday night approaching, we'll see how they play. And if they play damn well, which right now we're expecting, then we got a couple of games we can get excited about. But really quickly, just wanted to remind everybody about Monday. Listen, if you listen to our show, every now and again, we'll kind of, just throw some free money at you because that's what we do. The Chiefs 19-point favorites over the Jets, and the perfect place to get a little more info on stuff like that is with our friends over at betonline.ag. From game spreads and totals to team, player, and coaching props, BetOnline gives you more options to wager than any other place online. And of course, they always have their online casino, which again, scares the hell out of me because, listen, I'll bet every now and again, but I'm not a real deal gambler. So I know that when I roll up to the Hard Rock Casino with a couple of buddies of mine, it's going to be a long night. And most of my money will be spent at the bar because that's just the way that I roll. I like to play it safe. But the cool thing about BetOnline, their online casino never closes. So make sure you head over to betonline.ag today and take advantage of all the great sign-up bonuses. Once again, betonline.ag, your online sportsbook expert. So to kick things off every single week on the game preview show, we typically cover the injury report for both of the teams, and we don't have a whole lot to talk about when it comes to the Bucs this week. The only player who's going to show up on that injury report as of today looks like Chris Godwin. And after the game on Sunday, we didn't mention it because the news hadn't come out on Monday, but if you hadn't heard, wide receiver Chris Godwin had his broken index finger taped up. He didn't practice today due to injury, but after the game on Sunday, he suffered a fracture in his left index finger, making that touchdown catch from TB12. He underwent surgery for it, and he is expected to miss the Giants game, but things are looking up for him to come back against New Orleans, which, obviously much more important game on the line there against New Orleans. Not to overlook the Giants, which we'll talk about here in a second, but for Chris Godwin's sake, a week off to really get that finger healed up from surgery, have him back against a really critical game against New Orleans. The rest of the team looking pretty healthy, as much as it sucks, as much as Chris Godwin can't catch a break, I will take him missing 1 week of action against the Giants team to hopefully come back and help this offense against New Orleans. But overall, this team's looking pretty healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's good that he, I guess, fractured it, scoring a touchdown instead of just a random play. But if you're going to do it, so I'm not sure if he's going to be back week 9. It's because of Bruce Arians' comments. Bruce Arians basically said when he was asked about it, he said, I think it's very optimistic that he'll be back in a week, but it could be possible. We don't know really how long. Again, that's why we have the insurance policy. The insurance policy obviously being Antonio Brown. So to me, that sounds like they're not expecting him to be back next week. They're hopeful that he's back. But, I mean, Bruce Arians saying he thinks it's very optimistic that he'll be back. And, he said it's possible. I don't know. I think Godwin might push the play, but I think the Bucs might just say, hey, we got Antonio Brown. We can go into this game with Mike Evans and Antonio Brown as our 2 wide receivers, and I think he'd be all right. So just sit this one, rest up, get ready for Week 10 versus Carolina, and you'll be good to go. That might be the case. Who knows? I will say that we are recording this expecting the Bucs and Giants to play on Monday night, expecting that to not be moved back, not be moved to 4 o'clock on Monday, not be moved to Sunday, not be moved to Tuesday. We're expecting it to be played Monday night. But if the game is pushed back and it's not this week, the Bucs may be in some trouble because Antonio Brown now cannot return Week 9 versus New Orleans if the game is not pushed back.
Really?
If the game is pushed back, Antonio Brown cannot return. He would have to return the next week. Yep. Because right now that he is signed with a team, it is games and not weeks. That would be 8 games. And technically, since the Bucs would have played 7 games, the 8th game would be New Orleans. So you'd be looking at possibly just going against New Orleans with just Mike Evans. So, this is a tweet from Greg Allman. This is a worst-case scenario, but if Giants' COVID-19 situation worsens and Bucs-Giants is postponed to another week, Antonio Brown would remain suspended for next week's Bucs-Saints game. And then there was a question asked about the timeline. It said, there's no difference between weeks and games if you're unsigned. But once you're on a roster, suspension is for games, not weeks. So Antonio Brown was suspended 8 weeks, which means week 8 he could come back. But now once he's on a roster, now it goes to games. So really hoping that this game is not pushed back at all, because if it is, they're going to be in some trouble on Sunday night versus New Orleans. Like I said, we're not expecting it to be. I'm just throwing it out there. We'll get to a quote from Giants head coach Joe Judge later on. But yeah, it's nice to have that insurance policy, but hopefully that insurance policy can actually suit up on Sunday night, November, 9th or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely pretty critical that you had mentioned that, because I didn't even know that.
Right.
Obviously, a worst-case scenario, and we'll talk about the elephant in the room here in a second, but another thing as well. We talked about Chris Godwin possibly missing some action. That's, once again, where that insurance policy side of things with Antonio Brown comes in. And just a little update on AB. He was practicing this week. He wasn't practicing with the rest of the team, but he was on another field, basically all the way on the other side, practicing one-on-one with a trainer. And from what we've heard from Bruce Arians, he is in excellent shape, and he's going to be ready to go once he's ready to hit the field.
Yep, that is currently the only thing he can do. So he'll be eligible to practice with the team after Monday's game. So if they have a practice, they won't. But if they have a practice on Tuesday, he would be eligible to play because that would be the start of week 9. So he'd be eligible to practice with the team and play. So for now, today they have practice. He'll be working with the trainer, and Bruce Arians says he looks fantastic. Hopefully, I don't think Bruce Arians would really lie about that, but also I don't think he'd be saying, "Oh, he looks terrible." This guy's 40 pounds overweight. Maybe we can use him as a tight end.
Oh, he's looking slow. He can't catch. This is looking more and more like a mistake day to day.
Yeah. He's already threatened Mike Evans.
Right, yeah. Well, it's funny because if this year proves anything, it's that you can't believe a whole lot of what comes out of Bruce Arians' mouth. But again, he's not going to come out there and say those things. So Antonio Brown, if he is in good football shape and the Buccaneers do need to lean on him a little bit more in week 9, I think he should be good to go. But let's talk about the other thing that was mentioned with New York side of things. COVID-19. There was a statement released from the Giants, and it reads just like this. Late last night, we were notified that a Giants player tested positive for COVID-19. The player was immediately self-isolated, and the contact tracing process was initiated. All of the players' close contacts were identified and were informed to remain home from practice today. Those individuals will participate in meetings remotely. We are working closely with the NFL's chief medical officer regarding next protocol steps. That player that was mentioned was left guard Will Hernandez, who has been placed on the reserve/COVID-19 list. And as of right now, recent reports are saying that the Giants players sent home were determined to be close contacts, were not high risk, and that means that they could be back to practice as soon as tomorrow or even the next day. And then again, just as a further update, Giants head coach Joe Judge said on a conference call today, we are expecting to play Monday night. And with this whole situation, for 2 weeks in a row, the Buccaneers have gone up against a team that's having a little bit of issues with COVID-19. And listen, it's frustrating, but when the season started, we knew these things were going to happen. You knew people were going to get sick, and the NFL has a pretty good contingency plan for it because, you really haven't seen, other than the Titans debacle, which had to reschedule the Steelers game, you really haven't seen a whole lot of cases of COVID-19 just dismantle a locker room. And with this situation in particular, I think it really gives the Bucs the benefit, Bucs and the Giants, it gives them an extra benefit that the game is on a Monday night and not a Sunday, because while I don't think Will Hernandez is going to play in this game, I think the rest of those guys who weren't high risk can get maybe an extra day of practice in, and it just kind of slows down that process of maybe we have to reschedule the game, because as of right now, between you and me, I think we're going to see Monday Night Football, and we're going to see the Bucs wearing red too, which is what I'm damn excited about.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for the Giants that it's Will Hernandez, because I think their offensive line sucks, and he's their one decent one. So, we'll get into it, but this Bucs defensive line has to eat. They got to eat. So, like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, just like you said, this was expected. There was you knew that it was going to affect almost every team in the league, right? Whether it was that team that contracted the virus or the opponent, right, that contracted the virus. It was going to happen. It just was. And this is how they're dealing with it. And so far, the league has dealt with it in a very good manner. And hopefully, the Giants have no more positives. They also did send 2 coaches home who were, I believe, in close contact. It wasn't they were high risk or anything. They were just in close contact, so they sent 2 coaches home as well. But yeah, it definitely sucks. But like you said, I expect to be playing Monday night, just like Joe Judge said, and yeah, it would be nice to see the Bucs wearing red. I like the Giants jerseys that they're going to be wearing. I like those.
They're like the white on white, right?
Yeah, those throwback white ones. I like those. So
I don't think there's anything, honestly, for the Giants and their uniform selection. I think that helmet is hard to beat. When they've got the white Giants, like the word Giants decal on the side of the helmet, I think those look damn clean. It's a good 90s look for sure.
It's really good.
Of course, guys, if there is any more updates on the COVID-19 situation and this game, if it's rescheduled, we're going to be here to let you know. We'll give you any updates as they happen. But as of right now, the game is still expected to be played, and we are recording this podcast assuming that Monday Night Football, the game, is still going to be played. But enough of all that. Let's jump into what we're here for, and that is the game preview. Something we talked about after the Vegas game last week is, the Giants are a 1-6 team. Believe it or not, a 1-6 team in their division. They're only 1.5 games out of first place in their division.
Not out of it. Not out of it.
They're definitely not out of it. So
I remember in 2014 when the Bucs, the first year with Lovie Smith, I believe the Bucs were in this situation pretty much too, but the rest of the division sucked.
Yeah.
And they were talking at the trade deadline. They're like, "Oh, should the Bucs make a trade to maybe win the division?" Because they were legit 2 games out, and they were 1-6. And I was like, "Oh, this is crazy." I think that was the year that either the Saints or the Panthers won it at 7-9. I think.
Man.
Yeah, it happens. It happens every now and then, and yeah, it reminded me of the 2014 Bucs season.
Yeah, the NFC East is without a doubt probably nothing. The NFC East is the NFC least, as you've referred to it before. But one of the things that we wanted to make important, and we'll get into it a little bit more on this episode, is not to overlook anybody. In the NFL, we've heard day after day, week after week. We've even said it about the Bucs any given Sunday in the NFL. And the Bucs, I think, have been in a situation before where maybe they wrote off an opponent sooner than they should have, looking at the Chargers game when they came out and were losing big pretty early. But Bruce Arians came out. He made it clear on Monday that the Buccaneers have the leadership in the locker room, beginning with Tom Brady, to make sure that the entire team understands that the Giants are as dangerous an opponent as they've faced yet. And I think that has to be the expectation. You overlook somebody in this league, you're going to lose. Doesn't matter if they're 0-16, doesn't matter if they're 16-0. If you overlook anybody, it's pretty much a guaranteed loss on the schedule. So pretty important for the Bucs to just, not overlook this terrible Giants team.
The Giants went 4-12 last year, and Daniel Jones, I believe, has 4 wins as a starter. 3 of those wins are against the Redskins. The Washington football team. And so they went 4-12 last year. One of those wins was against the Bucs, and one of Daniel Jones's wins was against the Bucs. The only other team that Daniel Jones has beaten in his NFL career is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh my God.
You don't think that everybody that's on, you think about it and you could be like, oh, okay, well, it's a different team. It's the same defense that Daniel Jones is going up against. They did not forget last year.
Yeah.
I know they're probably sitting in that meeting room and Todd Bowles is probably saying, yeah, should have won the game. Matt Gay makes the chip shot field goal. You win the game anyway, so nobody really talks about it as much, right? But you didn't. So you still lost the game, and a rookie quarterback still put a plus on you, including a scramble with about a minute left to take the lead. So they didn't forget that at all. And like I said, the only really newbie on this, there's two. Steve McClendon, who, literally just got here, and Antoine Winfield. The rest of them were here. The rest of them played in that game last year, except for one man. And this could be the key stopping Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones is the Giants' leading rusher. I'm just going to put that out there. He's sneaky. He can run around a little bit. So
we know the Bucs have had some problems with mobile quarterbacks. Yeah. We've seen it all the time.
He's not Lamar Jackson, but he's good enough to. They ran that read option.
He'll run 85 yards and then fall down, guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, but the player that they didn't have last year, they didn't have Devin White in that game. Devin White didn't play in that game. It was Kevin Minter, and Devin White did not play in that game. So I think that makes a difference. But this Bucs defense did not forget, and I really hope that they don't overlook their opponent. This is my fear. So, and this happens in the NFL. The Bucs are facing a 1-6 Giants team. The Bucs are 5-2. The Bucs are currently first in the NFC South. The next week, they play on prime time in their home stadium against the team that is second in the NFC South and against a team that has owned them in recent years, the New Orleans Saints, a division rivalry. Do not overlook this Giants team. And I understand that you said that obviously Bruce Arians had mentioned that, they had the leaders in this locker room that, that really wouldn't happen. True, but it can always happen.
Yeah.
Just like you said, any given Sunday, you go on that field, you play the game. And the Buccaneers are so much better than the Giants. The Giants suck. Okay? Like the Giants are not good. But they have played almost every game they've played tough. Okay, except for the 49ers game, they have played their schedule pretty darn tough. They should have beaten Philly last Thursday. If Evan Ingram catches that pass, they do beat Philly. Obviously, I know they barely beat Washington, but I mean Dallas, who's not playing great, but Dallas barely beat them. The Rams barely beat them, and the Rams are playing good football, and the Rams barely beat them. I mean, the Steelers, they hung in there versus the Steelers, the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think this game, this could be a trap game. I don't think it will be, honestly, but I'm just saying it could be. With the big time matchup next week on prime time, and you're facing a 1-6 Giants team. Who knows? I really think that it could be. But back to my point, the Bucs defense should get no less than 4 sacks against this Giants offensive line because it's bad, and especially now. It's time for Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul to step up, especially Shaq Barrett. He had 3 sacks against the Giants last year. The Bucs had 5 sacks against the Giants last year. So, I mean, they roughed them up pretty good, but not enough. And I just think that they have to get to the quarterback with also because they really didn't do that last week in Vegas. That was a thing that can really concern me, and it still concerns me. That's why I put out a tweet mentioning names that they could possibly trade for at the trade deadline. And maybe at the end of the show, I'll mention some of those names, but I think they still need that pass rush depth. And Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett, those guys are going to have to step up. They're going to have to get there with 4, and there should be no issue getting there with 4 because this Giants offensive line is bad. Daniel Jones has a tendency to fumble the football. He's like one of the worst in the league at it. So just get to him. Like if they score over 20 points, if they score even if it's 21, if they score 21 points, there's an issue.
Yeah,
because this offense is not good. Like 20 points, yeah, whatever. But if it's over 20, anything over 20 points, there's a problem. Unless obviously it's like a pick 6 or a fumble recovery for a touchdown or something, that's on the offense. Whatever, I won't count that. But if the defense allows over 20 points to the Giants, there's a big issue.
Yeah, and you had just brought up, over 20 points is definitely a big issue because you look at the Giants offensively, they are next to last place in the NFL for both yards and points scored categories. They are ranked 31st in both of those. So again, with the Buccaneers defense playing the way that it has, especially the last 2 weeks, you went up against a pretty high-powered offense with Vegas, and then the week before you went up against a even more high-powered offense in the Packers, and you only held them to 10 points. So the expectation, sure, within the organization, I'm sure these guys are saying to each other, all right, no points on Sunday. Maybe they get a field goal. Maybe they, get a touchdown after a long grinding drive. But again, I think if the Giants are swinging in this game after halftime and it's, a 1 possession football game and both team has more than 17 points, then it's a pretty telling issue that, there's just something going on there. But let's look at Daniel Jones on this offense. He does kind of suck. But he does have a good crew of pass catchers around him. He's got Darius Slayton, Evan Ingram, Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and all 4 of those guys I know have made plays against the Bucs in the past. So if there's anybody on that offense that could kind of sneak off and get one every now and again, it's definitely going to be one of those 4 guys. But is there anyone in particular that you think the Bucs should highlight the most on that Giants offense?
Well, I mean, I think it has to be a guy like Evan Ingram because to me, Evan Ingram is the guy that could hurt him the most. I think he's like Daniel Jones' go-to guy pretty much. Yeah. I mean, having Sterling Shepard back, he was injured a little bit earlier in the year. Having him back is pretty big for their offense. But I think that Evan Ingram sort of, if he gets going, I think it makes the Giants' offense tougher to stop. Obviously, not having Saquon Barkley is going to be easier for the Bucs. But, I mean, the Bucs lost to this team, and Saquon Barkley got knocked out in the first quarter last year. I mean, it was just that game last year was just so nuts. And it's something that I'm sure they're remembering right now. But I also bet you Daniel Jones is remembering, and he's like, yeah, like I beat this team. I got this team's number. So the Bucks gotta kick the living you know what out of this team, I think. And I mean, and they should, because they're a better football team. This is where you prove that, hey, yeah, maybe it's a close game anyway, but like your defense just has to annihilate them. Just like, get to Jones 4, 5, 6 times.
Yeah.
Force 2 or 3 turnovers. Make sure that they don't have any signs of life really on offense. And I think the biggest guy is Evan Ingram. It might be Jordan Whitehead going up against him, which Jordan Whitehead in coverage is not great. And Evan Ingram is basically a wide receiver playing tight end. So, I mean, he doesn't catch like a wide receiver as we saw in Philly last week, but I could have caught that ball. So put me out there. I'm not sure if I can get by that safety. Baby. Yeah, so I'd beat the home team. I'd come back home and everybody would hate me. Would hate me.
That Carson Wentz to Evan Wanish connection would be something lethal.
See, yeah, Carson, you need receivers.
Boy,
I'm only
built
a call
like
away.
A tight end, got that 4.5 speed. Whoo!
Well, I mean, Carson does. I got a 4.3 speed, but yeah, I'm not burner, man.
There you go.
Put me on a go route. Put me on scooter version 2. Basically.
There you go.
So that's what I've been called around my neighborhood, by many who've known.
The Philly scoot.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Not the Philly special, the Philly scooter. Yes. So anyway, I think Evan Ingram and then like Sterling Shepard, whoever Sean Murphy Bunting is covering, I think the Giants are going to throw to. Oh, yeah. So it's either going to be most of the time Sterling Shepard or Golden Tate. Darius Slayton mostly plays outside. So I would put Jamel Dean on Darius Slayton, then have Carlton Davis on Golden Tate probably, and have Murphy Bunting on Shepard. So that's how I would line it up. But yeah, this Bucs defensive line just needs to give Daniel Jones no time to even throw to them receivers. So
yeah, and I think
their run game's non-existent with Devontae Freeman either. So
that's the thing, is that I'm fairly confident enough to say that I don't think Devontae Freeman's going to be one overall run defense whatsoever. You make any team one-dimensional. It's a formula that we've seen week after week from the Bucs, and I think this could be a game where if you bring the pressure to Daniel Jones like we're anticipating, it could be chock full of turnovers, so it could do even more to help the Buccaneers in the turnover margin in that department. But before we talk about the defense of the Giants, I just want to remind everybody, listen, holidays are coming up. We said it on Monday. I'm saying it again. They're going to be here before you know it. Halloween's in a couple of days. The next time the Buccaneers play, Monday, it'll be November. Can you believe that? Listen,
that's crazy.
Black Friday shopping's coming up. You got a lot of stuff. You got a lot of gifts that you're looking to get, but no need to worry, because our friends at Seattle Shirt Company have got you covered. Jay and his team have an unbelievable selection of NFL and NBA jerseys that are 100% authentic. From current superstars like LeBron to the all-time greats like Jim Brown, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and of course Walter Payton, Seattle Shirt Company has it all. And right now, for our listeners, we have a special one-time only pre-Black Friday Cyber Monday deal. Everything you buy over at seattleshirt.com is 30% off. So head over to seattleshirt.com, enter the code BELIEVE, BLEAV, at checkout for 30% off of your entire order. And of course, shipping is always free with our friends over at the Seattle Shirt Company. Once again, promo code BLEAV for 30% off of your order, seattleshirt.com. Make sure you go check it out. So let's talk about the Giants defense. Listen, they bring a lot more to the table than the Giants do on offense. That is for damn sure. They've got some athletic big men on that defensive line. They got Leonard Williams. Dalvin Tomlinson is another big name. They added a trio of veteran starters in 2020. They got safety Logan Ryan, cornerback James Bradbury, and inside linebacker Blake Martinez. Here's the thing about Bradbury out of those three names. He's had a pretty damn good season so far. He has been a bright spot in that Giants secondary. And another thing as well, he's got 3 interceptions on the year. But another thing as well is that Bradbury normally plays pretty well against Mike Evans. So what are your expectations this Sunday? I guess for Mike Evans in particular, because look, history favors Mike Evans. He normally has a big game against the Giants, but with Bradbury usually having Evans' number in Carolina, he's with the Giants now. I have a feeling he's going to be shadowing number 13 for the whole day. Do you think Mike Evans has a big
especially
game?
with Chris Godwin out. Here's what I expect. I expect more Bucs fans to be complaining about Mike Evans come Tuesday morning.
Not getting the ball.
He's just even if he does, it's not going to be big yards. It's just it's a less than 100% Mike Evans without Chris Godwin there, without Antonio Brown there, and against a guy who has had his number. Come on, it's not a recipe for success, and it's going to be up to the rest of the guys. I think Miller, Rob Gronkowski, Tyler Johnson, even Cameron Brate. I think. Who he's had a couple of solid games against the Giants in the past, but yeah, like you said, I mean, Mike Evans is a Giants killer, but Bradbury has been a Mike Evans killer. So Bradbury has always seemed to keep Evans in check when they were facing Carolina, and maybe it's more the scheme, but I mean, Bradley's been one of the best cornerbacks in football this year, so I think he'll get a few catches, but I don't think he's going to go off for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns like he did last year against the Giants. I think, did he have 2 or 3 in the first half?
I think he had 2 in the first half, if I remember
2 in
correctly.
the first half.
I will Google that and get you an update here in a sec.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, like you said, history favors Mike Evans, but then history favors James Bradbury. So I'm going to give the edge to probably Bradbury. If Evans was 100%, I think it'd be closer. But right now, I'm going to have to give the edge to Bradbury, especially with Chris being out and obviously Antonio Brown not being there yet. I just think that they're probably going to double him somewhat too. And I think they'll probably do almost the same thing that the Raiders did and just hope that like your linebackers and safeties and your other corners are going to be able to cover the guys like Gronkowski, Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson. So I think that's the game plan for the Giants. They're a pretty good run defense team, so not sure if the Bucs are going to be able to run the ball with success. I'd like them get Leonard Fournette involved in the passing game or with this game because the Giants have not fared well against receiving backs. So that's something to look out for too.
Yeah, and just an update on that Mike Evans stat line from 2019. Against the Giants, he had 8 receptions, 3 touchdowns, 190 yards.
Yeah,
biggest Mike Evans game I can remember in a long time.
That's not happening again.
And you brought up the fact that, I don't think it's so much going to be Bradbury having an awesome day against Mike Evans. I think they're just going to double the shit out of him again like they did against, the Raiders. I think you're going to see that happen.
And when Chris Godwin's not there, it's much easier to do.
Exactly. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see another decoy week from Mike Evans. But ladies and gentlemen, just once again, settle down. He is currently second on the team in receiving yards. After Monday, I guarantee you he'll still be top 5 in receiving yards on the season, right?
First in targets.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's okay. Like, relax.
And listen, we could be wrong. Mike Evans could go out there and have a signature Mike Evans game, but with what the Bucs offense is bringing to the table, with Chris Godwin not playing, as Evan had mentioned, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see the game plan on defense be, let's just shut down Mike Evans for as long as we possibly can. But I will predict a Mike Evans touchdown. I think he gets in the end zone one time. Even if he only has like 10 yards on the day, I think we see a big number 13 touchdown, which, by the way, first place on the team in receiving touchdowns as well. So, looking at the rest of this Giants defense, I wanted to ask you, is there any player that you think really could be that impact guy for the Giants throughout the Monday night game?
I mean, they have a few solid players. I mean, I liked Logan Ryan. I've always been a fan of his. I mean, I still think Jabril Peppers, solid player. But I mean, other than that, you mentioned Leonard Williams, Dalvin Tomlinson. I mean, those are the 2 guys really. That's what makes their run defense so good. Is it's tough to run against them because those 2 guys the middle kind of. So they don't have as great pass rush. Lorenzo Carter, who's their leading pass rusher, I believe, went down with an injury, so he's not playing this game. I believe he's out for this year. And they just traded Marcus Golden back to Arizona. So, I I don't think the Giants pose many threats as far as pass rush goes, even though they are like apparently like I forget what stat. John Ledyard, I believe, Pewter Report brought it up. Like they're like top 15 or something, or top 10 and like pressures or something like that. But he said it is kind of deceiving because it takes like Carter's numbers and Golden's numbers and stuff and adds them in there too. So
Right.
I think the Bucs could have some trouble running the ball, and if they try to establish some sort of running game early on, it won't be as great. Like I said, I think you gotta get your backs involved in the receiving game, and if you don't want to throw to Ronald Jones, that's fine. Throw Shady McCoy out there. Have your two receiving backs be Leonard Fournette and McCoy. That's fine. If you want to give Fournette a break every now and then, throw Shady out there. Because Shady's better at it than Jones is. So, keep Jones running the football. Do not have Jones catching that ball because he can catch it, but after he dropped that screen the other day, I think Bruce Arians didn't see enough too. So yeah. I think if Leonard Fournette needs a break, I think that's when you may see LaShawn McCoy. But I would definitely utilize the pass catching backs, and I think it's going to be important for the offensive line to play well again. I think this Giants defensive line is not as talented as Green Bay's was, but it's also better than I almost said Oakland.
Oh,
better,
you caught yourself.
Better than Vegas's was. I think it's better than Vegas, but it's not as good as Green Bay. So I think the offensive line is definitely going to have to play well, and they're going to have to protect Tom Brady, and he's going to have to protect the football again. I think there's going to be opportunities on defense to take the ball away, but you can't give it away. I believe the Bucs did a decent job last year against the Giants. I believe they had one turnover. Winston threw a pick, but other than that, I believe the Bucs had a turnover themselves on defense, so the turnover margin was fairly even. I just think that they have to be sure that they protect their guy back there, and try to get creative with it. Try to get the ball in your playmaker's hands. Scotty Miller, they're going to be paying more attention to him. Gronkowski, now they're going to be paying more attention to him, especially in the red zone. So I think their defense is sneaky good, but it's also not actually good. So there'll be some opportunities there for the Bucs offense, I think, to score some points.
Absolutely. And one more thing I wanted to mention before we get into the weekly checklist. This next thing actually kind of ties into the first thing I had on the checklist, but this offensive line. You talked about the defensive line of New York being a little bit more talented than the Raiders and what they brought to the table, but it's a really big opportunity for this offensive line to go 3 straight games without giving up a sack, which I cannot remember the last time that has ever happened here in Tampa Bay. But really big game on the line for them, and keeping Tom Brady clean in this one's going to be important because, like you said, if they try to set up the run game early in the game and it doesn't look like it's going to work, then yeah, you're going to have to resort to Tom Brady just slinging it a little bit more than you're comfortable with. But he's Tom F. and Brady. He just won he just won Offensive Player of the Month. So I'm fairly confident in him throwing the football. But really big game for this offensive line as well.
Yeah, and it's gonna be big. I think Brady even said himself he wants to get Mike Evans some targets. So I hope he doesn't force the ball to him, but I think you could see a lot more targets coming Mike Evans' way this week.
Absolutely. So every single week here on the Game Preview Show, we wrap things up with something called the Weekly Checklist. It is a list of 3 things that the Buccaneers need to do to hopefully come out victorious against the Giants this Monday night. So let's get into it. The first thing on my checklist is, like I just mentioned, continue to keep Tom Brady clean. You give him a clean pocket, you keep him not getting hit and laid out flat on his ass, he's going to give you everything you want and more, which is why this month played a really big part in him winning NFC Offensive Player of the Month, was the performance of this offensive line. So against the Giants defense that is fairly lackluster for the most part, aside from those big hogs on the line, I think they can do it. Second on the weekly checklist, spread the ball on offense. We talked about the absence of Chris Godwin, talked about Mike Evans kind of being limited a bit. It's another one of those weeks where you're looking at Scotty Miller, you're looking at Gronk to have a big game, you're looking at Tyler Johnson, as you said. I'd like to see Tyler Johnson be a little bit more involved. Yeah, he had his touchdowns, but I'd like to see him get a little bit more passes, maybe some looks if he can. But another week, I expect them to just spread the ball on offense. You're going to see a little bit of everything, and it helps that, like you said, Evan, get your running backs involved in the passing game. Get Leonard Fournette, 47 receiving yards for him last week. I definitely think he can improve on that this week if they give him the lanes to run through. But I would like to see that. So spread the ball out on offense, expecting that for damn sure. And then last one. I don't think it's on your checklist this week, so I went ahead and put it on mine because we all know how the Giants game went last year. Make your damn kicks. Do I think this one comes down to a last-second chip shot field goal for the Bucs? I don't think so. I think they should win by more than one possession once the clock hits triple zeros. But for the love of God, Ryan Suckup, you've been doing such a great job this season. One more week for me, just because it's the Giants game. Make your kicks. Evan, anything you want to add to the checklist?
Yeah, so I believe this was requested of me, so I'm gonna say it anyway. This one's for you, Owen. Yeah, just make your kicks. I know that Rhett said it, but I'm emphasizing it. So, yeah, make your kicks. And I know that Owen was pleading for me to say it. So there you go, buddy. Make your kicks just this last week, and then if he makes them, you'll never hear it again. So if he makes them and they win, never hear it from me again. So yeah, there was a lot of reasons. Like they blew an 18-point lead at halftime last year, and yes, the offense kind of did sputter a little bit in the second half. But man, they just make the kick and you win. Like yeah. I don't get it. And I mean, Matt Gay also had missed, I believe, what was it? It was an extra point and a field goal earlier. So earlier in that game. So I mean, and also in Tampa. Luckily, this one's in New York. That might be the key.
There you go.
Can't be in Tampa because if you remember in 2017, Nick Folk missed an extra point and a field goal, I think, and then hit the game winner against the Giants, but it barely squeaked in.
Yeah.
So that was in Tampa too, and then so I think that's the key. So since it's in New York, we might be in all right shape. But yeah, just go out there and Ryan Suckup, don't suck. Make your kicks.
There you go. What better week to have it on the checklist twice? Potentially the last week we ever see it on the checklist, but fingers crossed and go Bucks. Let's do some score predictions, break this thing down, and get out of here. My prediction, as we kind of talked about the whole show, I don't think it's a close game. I don't think it should be a close game. I think if it is, then, yeah, the Giants have played tough, but I just don't think they have the ability to play tough against the best defense in the league and Tom F. and Brady, at least this year. So my score prediction, Buccaneers win it big. No, it's not a super high-scoring game for the Bucs in terms of, what they've put on the scoreboard these past couple of weeks, but I got them winning this one by 18 points. 28-10 is my final score prediction. The Buccaneers advance to 6-2, and they are red hot, ready to play the Saints on Sunday Night Football next week. Evan, what is your prediction?
Yeah, so I have a similar prediction. I think that the Bucs offense it'll be a little bit tighter. I think it's one of those games where it might be a little close until the end, and the Bucs may pull away. So I'm gonna go 28-17 Buccaneers. So I'm thinking the Giants score one more touchdown than you think, and I'm gonna go 28-17. Still an 11-point win for the Bucs, but yeah, the Giants I just don't think have enough offensive firepower to match up with Tampa.
Yeah, I think you'll see him take a shot every now and again and maybe get it. You'll get a deep ball to Evan Ingram, Darius Slayton, or whoever gets open on the play, but it's just not going to be a habit. I don't think you're going to see Daniel Jones carve up this defense like he did in 2019.
You're talking about the deep ball. I don't know if Jones is going to have time to throw the deep ball.
That's fair,
like,
too.
It's going to have to be quick passes. I mean, this
he is
offensive
shifty.
line is
Let's keep that in mind. He is pretty
Yeah,
shifty.
yeah, he
and
definitely
we've
is.
seen,
Yes.
Derek Carr was able to extend a couple of plays in Vegas just because of his legs. So
Yeah.
it could happen. There's quite a few times the Bucs blitz and they miss it by that much, But other than one or two plays like that, I really don't think there's going to be a lot of room for this Giants offense to operate. But ladies and gentlemen, with all of that being said, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening on any of our podcast outlets or watching us with video over on YouTube. And I'll tell you what, if you're not subscribed already, make sure you go ahead and do it. We are pretty close to 1,500 subscribers over on our YouTube channel. The Buccaneers continue to play good football. We continue to get good numbers, and there's nobody else we can thank but each and every one of you who tune into the show every single week. So we truly do appreciate you. But if you're on YouTube, click that subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell icon as well, as you'll get notified every time we upload a show, a hype video, a Bucks break, or even whenever we decide to do the CF hotline shows and have you guys call in. So thank you so much for all the support there. That's where you can check out the show. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. You can find myself on Instagram and Twitter at Redicus. If you follow me, I will follow you back. And I don't think the same could be said for my co-host, but if you want to check him out, you can find him on Instagram at Bucks_Daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram with 25,000 plus followers. And you can find him on Twitter at EvanNFL.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, what Red said's probably true. I'm not gonna lie. So, yeah, I'll see. You know, if you want tweets about occasionally about the Bucks, about Philly sports, life in general, just general wisdom, you know, from the Philly scooter 4-3 burner, you know, just go ahead and follow me at EvanNFL. So.
There you go. Looking forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, we will talk to you Tuesday because, of course, the Buccaneers play Monday Night Football. So we'll talk to you Tuesday with our game review episode. Bucks break coming that week. And if you're listening to this on Thursday over on our YouTube channel, we got our weekly hype video coming out on Friday. So be on the lookout for that. Expecting a big game for the Bucks in red and pewter this Monday night. We'll talk to you guys on Tuesday. See you later.